in writing this DBQ essay, the most important question that you have to answer throughout your whole essay is what, ladies and gentlemen?
How did the Constitution guard against tyranny?
All right, so that's what the essay is about. 5 paragraphs of how did they guard against tyranny. Now, what does guard mean? Somebody raise your hand and tell me. When they say guard, what does that mean, sir?
Protect.
To protect, correct. And tyranny, you have to know what it means. What does tyranny mean? Go ahead and say it. The person that has what power? The person that has all the power. And the reason why we didn't want that is because we just had fought a war and got rid of King George III, who we thought was a tyrant. He had all the power and we had none. So in their attitude is, now that we're writing this Constitution, that we got lucky enough to win this war, what kind of government we're going to have? And the biggest thing that they thought was, we need to figure out a way where we never have a tyranny again, and where we're protecting people's rights. That's the overall goal. No tyranny, protect people's rights. All right, so throughout the week, we've covered the 4 documents, which are the 4 reasons or the 4 things they did to make sure to avoid a tyranny. So again, you're writing about what did they do to avoid a tyranny. So altogether, what is the name of our first document?
Federalism.
Federalism. So this is the first thing they did to make sure there's no tyranny. Somebody tell me, what does federalism mean? Yes, sir.
Checks and balances.
No. Checks and balances is over here. Federalism. Somebody tell me what federalism is. It shows you on the picture. What does the blue look like they did? We discussed this last week. So what is federalism? Yes?
Splitting the power.
It's splitting the power. All right? If you do not want the power to be in one place, which is what a tyranny is, then split it, separate it, divide it, whatever you want to call it. All right, so federalism divided the power into how many sections? Everybody, look up here. How many sections?
2.
2. What's this one?
States.
The states. And what's this one?
Central.
The central or federal government. So now, at this point, simply with federalism, the idea is you don't want the power in one place, so split it. How many set groups do we have now? At this point? 2. Remember, the goal is not to have one. I just said that. The goal is not to have one. So just with the first document idea that we discussed, federalism, they've already split it. But actually, it's not 2. All right, because at the time, there was 13 states. And if every state gets its own government, a state government, how many state governments do they have? 13. And we have one federal government, meaning how many groups have power now? 13 plus 1 makes it 14. So with step 1, we went from one group who was having a tyranny to step 1, federalism, split the power, states and federal government. Now we have 14 groups. All right? But their idea was they needed to keep going. And by the way, we could do this DBQ. We have 4 documents, but we could do this DBQ with documents A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, all the way to the end, because they have kept going over and over again. The idea is split the power, split the power, split the power. We're just concentrating on the biggest 4 things because it would be hard to write an essay with 26 different documents. All right? Second thing they did is what, ladies and gentlemen?
Separation of powers.
What is it again?
Separation of powers.
All right, so with separation of powers, they determined that this one, still too powerful. And if it's too powerful, you can have a tyranny. So what did they do here? Somebody raise your hand. What did they do on this one? Somebody raise your hand. Yes?
Separate the power again.
Once again, they separated the power. Now, just like looking at the red, which is the document B, how many parts did they separate it into?
2.
Yes, right here.
3.
3. 1, 2, 3. And those 3 are our 3 blank of government. Somebody raise your hand and tell me, what am I talking about?
The 3 branches of government.
The 3 branches of government. All right, so they determined we don't want just one federal government. We want it to 3 different parts, which would make this number 14, number 15, and number 16. So now we're at 16 groups. You see, 13 states and the 3 parts. So now we have the 3 branches of government, and they all have power over each other. Who can tell me the name of one of the branches? Yes? The executive branch, which is the president. Who can tell me another one? Yes? Judicial, which is the Supreme Court. And who can tell me the last one?
Legislative.
The legislative branch, which is Congress. So now instead of the federal government being 1, now we have 3 different branches with 3 different powers. All right, so now we're at 16 groups. But with these 3 parts of our government, they still felt they are way too powerful. There is still too much power in these 3 branches. So they had to figure out a way other than dividing power that they could make sure that the power isn't abused, right? Because the goal of not having a tyranny is that they don't abuse their power. So they came up with document C. What is document C? What's the idea of document C, I mean?
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances. Who can tell me what checks and balances is? All right, so they divided the power with separation of powers into 3 branches. What does the checks and balances, what does that mean? Yes, sir?
Kept each other in check by making sure that not everyone had more power than the
Very
other.
good. Kept each other in check. They check each other's power to make sure that the power is balanced. And if the power is balanced, then it means that it's not abused. So what they did is, I showed you the arrows the other day, is that everyone has a power over each other. If one gets out of line, the other 2 put them back in line. So if the president passes an executive order, which is like a law that they have the right to pass, but it goes against the Constitution, the court system can say, bye-bye to the law. And they have. To President Trump, since he became in office, they have shot down many of his executive orders saying it goes against the Constitution, and we have the power to simply say to the law, it goes away. Whether President Trump likes it or not, it goes away. What if a president breaks the law? What power does Congress have to take care of a president who breaks the law? They can impeach him, which basically means fire them. So a president has to keep this in mind because of checks and balances. I have a lot of power, but I can't pass any law I want because if it's against the Constitution, they'll get rid of it. And I can't break the law because they'll fire me or impeach me. So that means the president knows that the other 2 branches are continuously watching over him, and Congress and the Supreme Court know the same thing. And if they're all balanced in power, it means no abuse of power. So that means document A, B, and C so far, which takes us to document D. What is document D, ladies and gentlemen?
Big state, small state.
The big state, small state compromise, right? Now the thing here was, even though the 3 branches of government had checks and balances, they determined that one of them was way too powerful. That one of them could declare wars. Well, war is something that you get into. It's years of, usually in a war, it's thousands of deaths, and it's billions of dollars in spending. So they don't want anybody to just go to war. So they wanted Congress to have that. They're the ones who make our taxes. They're the ones who spend our money, and they're the ones who make our laws. And they thought this group simply is too big. What group am I talking about that they ended up splitting? Yes? The legislative branch, otherwise known as Congress. So Congress was too much power, so once again, they split and they split. And they created the what? Everybody look up here. They created the what? And the Senate. Right from the beginning, states started asking the question. What was the question they started asking? We talked about this on Friday. Does anybody remember? What was the question? How many representatives do I get? Big states made the response was really easy. Hey, it should be based on people. The more people I have, the more representatives. So the big states are happy with that idea. But the little states, their attitude was, that's not fair. You're always going to determine what happens in our country then, because we have a few population. So it should be all equal. You're a state, I'm a state. We should be equal. So they had 2 ideas on determining representation. One where population matters, and one where it doesn't. Well, they had 2 parts of Congress, so they gave an idea to each one. In the House, population matters. A lot of people, a lot of representatives. In the Senate, does population matter? No, yes or no?
No.
Which means they're all what?
Equal.
Does anybody remember how many senators you all get? Yes? 2. So if you're little tiny Rhode Island, you have 2 senators in Congress. If you're massive California with all the millions of people we have, you get 2 senators. But in the House where population matters, does anybody remember how many Rhode Island got? Rhode Island? 1. How about California? Does anybody remember California? Yes?
8.
No, it was a lot more than that. Did we do this on Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many?
53.
53. So look at the difference between Rhode Island and California. In the Senate, doesn't matter, they're tied. Here, 1 to 53. And what this did now is it took the power of Congress and they split it all over the country. Because now you have senators and members of the House spread out across the entire country. So that power is not in one place, it's throughout. So split, balance the power, split again. And once again, all that does is it goes away from what? It goes away from what? From all the power being where? In one place. This is what the writers did to create a situation where there is no tyranny, to avoid having abuse of power. Now your job is to write the essay telling me what they did, right? So how many paragraphs do you have in your essay? 5, right? First paragraph is which one? Introduction. Paragraphs 2, 3, and 4 are your body. And your last one? Conclusion. Now it's worth 400 points, the essay is. And there's 5 paragraphs, so that means what? Well, one of you math people can figure this out. 400 points, there's 5 paragraphs, what does it mean per paragraph? How many does that mean for the paragraphs? Yes.
8.
Oh, good, yeah, because divide up 400 points by 5 equals 80 points. It is not divided exactly. One paragraph is more important than the others, and that's your introduction. That's why you're going to work on it tonight on your back of your paper, and we're going to do the activity tomorrow with a thumbs up and thumbs down, because this one is worth more than the rest of them. Now, there are 3 parts to the introduction, and this is your homework, so pay attention. What's the first part of introduction? I didn't hear everybody. What's the first part? Second part? And the last one?
Thesis.
Now, which one of those 3 is the hardest one?
Thesis.
The thesis. Do you have to worry about the thesis?
No.
No, because it's right here. Like I said, I'm going to help you. I already took the picture of this, and I'll go out just by itself so you see clearly what the thesis is. So the idea is today you're working on these 2 and connecting it, and adding your thesis, and that's your paragraph. Now, what's the first part again?
Hook.
Somebody tell me, what does a hook mean? What is the idea of a hook?
A section where it grabs the reader's attention.
And the idea is to grab the reader's attention. So you want to grab the attention. Now there's many different ways of doing a hook, but in this class, we're going to stick with one way the whole year. You're going to write a short story. You're going to write a short story that's 4 to 5 sentences to make me think about the topic that you're writing about. You do not tell me about the topic you're writing about, you just make me think about it. So you got to come up with some sort of a story, and I'll give you an example in a minute. Then you blend into the background. What is exactly happening in this era? What exactly is the issues that you're dealing with? And then it bleeds into the thesis of what you're going to write about that era, about that idea that you made me think of. All in one paragraph, due tomorrow on the back. All right, so let's talk about a hook. What could be a hook? The idea is that you got to make me think in this particular DBQ about injustice, about abuse of power. You're trying to make me think about why they were so worried about having a tyranny. So you got to give me some sort of a story where you don't tell me to imagine something. You write the story in the first person to make me understand it through your writing. So you can, like, if I want to talk about abuse of justice, abuse of power, I could say something like, I was standing there as the parade was going on, and the king is coming. I haven't seen the king in years, and I'm excited about seeing the king. Right before the king got to me, somebody hit me in the back, and I made a face, and when I looked up, the king was looking directly at me, and he thought the face was meant at him. Within a few minutes, guards had arrested me, and now I'm in chains in a cell with no court case coming up, and I have no idea when I'm leaving. That's a hook. It makes me think of how messed up it would be that just a simple accident, like looking at somebody wrong, could throw me in jail, and that there's no court case that would find me innocent. Here in this country, we're so used to the idea that somebody accuses us of something, there has to be evidence. That's only around because of the Constitution. Before, the king had all the power. If you looked at the king wrong, the king could cut your head off, because your life didn't belong to you. Your life belonged to the king. So just in a simple story like that, you got me thinking about injustice. You got me thinking about how messed up it would be, something simple like that, to cause you to be in chains. Now, we got to talk about the background. What is happening when you're writing this essay? So I would finish writing the hook about I'm in jail and chains and no court case coming, and I say this is an example of what happened during the era of the Constitution. The colonists had just won the revolution and got lucky to win, and now they're writing their Constitution, and they want to avoid any injustice. So in writing the Constitution, their big fear was how to avoid a tyranny. Here you also say what a tyranny is. And you say a tyranny is when one person or a group of people have all the power and then they abuse it. Now comes the thesis where you tell me what about this are you talking about? Which is we say framers of the Constitution avoid tyranny by using federalism, separation of powers, checks and balances, and large state, small state compromise. So now you've told me, you made me think of injustice with your hook. In the background, you explain what's going on, and then the thesis tells me what you specifically you're going to write about. Now it's time to prove it in your body paragraphs. Now, I put in these metacognitive markers to make you understand where the documents go. So if you see document A with the triangle, it's federalism, that's your first body paragraph. Here, you're gonna explain to me what federalism is and how federalism avoids a tyranny. Then in the second body paragraph, the square and the circle, here you're gonna tell me how separation of powers, or what separation of powers and checks and balances are, and how do they avoid having a tyranny. And then on the last paragraph, the diamond is the big state, small state compromise. What is it and how does it avoid tyranny? The idea is in these paragraphs, you're telling me how these things, these ideas of the documents, help them avoid a tyranny, what I explained in the beginning of the video. All right? And then in conclusion, 6 to 8 sentences, restate the main idea, basically say your thesis, but in other words, give some extra information. There's a lot of information in the background essay that you can throw in here, and then strong closing sentence. You're wrapping it all up to not only the material you're covering, but to today. So you can say something super simple like, thank God that the writers of the Constitution got it right, because now I live in a world where I have rights, and I have the right to protest, I have the right to freedom of speech, and I'm not gonna be thrown in jail just because I gave somebody a dirty look. And that is your entire essay itself. Right? The only thing I didn't mention is topic sentences. The topic sentence is the first sentence in the paragraph that does two things. One, it tells me what the paragraph's about. In this case, the first one is going to tell me that it's about federalism. The second thing it does, not only does it tell me what it's about, it connects back to the thesis. So in the thesis I said, they did this to avoid a tyranny. Here I tell you, in this paragraph, we're going to discuss how federalism avoided a tyranny from developing. And then you go on to prove it with the information found where. Where is the information going to be found? It goes from others, from the documents. All right? 5 paragraphs, intro's worth more, 8 to 10 sentences, 3 body, 1 conclusion. Right? This is due next Thursday. All right? All typed out, linked to my website under your period. All right? By 3 p.m. By 3 p.m. So we will work on this today. You're going to finish it for homework tonight, and it's due tomorrow, and we'll do the thumbs up and thumbs down.